and welcome to the second in our winter club development series, this one on Do. This is simply a recording of this session. We had hoped that this would be in person at Forth Bank Stadium with some clubs, but unfortunately, busy time of year just after the school holidays, not so many clubs available to come tonight, so we thought it would be better that just myself and Tom sat down and went over these slides to provide you with some prompts and ideas that you can go back to your own club landscape with and work on with your allocated officer or your committee or coaches, etc. So hopefully this is not too long because we're not including the workshop elements. It's more just, as I say, prompts and ideas. So we'll fire through these, and again, just to encourage you that if there's projects that you do want to work on, do get in touch with us, and we're keen to support. So please do enjoy. As noted, this is the second in the series. So back at the end of January, we did the planning session, and that covered topics such as membership engagement, community mapping, looking at the different partners and organisations that you can engage with in your local area, and then finishing with some club development plan, templates and ideas. So please take this in the context of everything we're talking about today, is keeping in mind that the plan workshop, which was also recorded, will be uploaded at the same time as this. So please do go back and check that if you feel as if there's bits that we're missing. I'm sure that will be covered in that one, and then we'll continue on to the review session and workshop at the end of March. So we've got three aims for this workshop. So the idea again is that you're looking to deliver either targeted projects or sessions, or maybe just reviewing what you're currently doing within your club sessions, your teams, etc. So we're here just to give you some ideas and some various methods to consider within your own club and environment. And we're going to start that off with Tom looking at why we're doing this, understanding your own purpose and your own drive, and making sure that that's what you're hoping to deliver and measure against. We're then going to talk about the how you actually do that, more specifically developing partnerships, getting various forms of funding, raising awareness and increasing the profile of your work, and then the other resources that you need to consider for the how. And then the what, which is the final section, is actually once you're delivering the sessions, what you're looking at in those sessions, what's going well, what can you improve on in the moment. So we'll work through those three sessions. As I say, not many gaps because we don't have any exercises or conversation, but plenty still to be taken away, hopefully. So we'll pass you over to Tom for our first exercise.
So the first thing we're going to consider is what we call the golden circle, which is a theory created by Simon Sinek. So first of all, it kind of tries to reverse our way of thinking when it comes to what we're delivering and why we're delivering it. So the first thing we consider is usually we'll go into a session thinking this is what we're delivering, whether it be a certain sport, certain activity, certain meeting. This is just our common day-to-day, and this is what we try and do. But we want to try and reverse that and think a bit deeper about why we want to do something. Okay, so instead of thinking about what we're doing, we want to think about why we're doing something. Okay, so from the get-go, when you're starting to plan sessions, when you're going to deliver something, I want us to consider the why of the activity rather than what we do. So to start with, you would normally think, right, we're going to deliver football in local schools, and so what, okay? But the theory reverses that, and we try and think about the why we're doing something. So maybe we want to make a certain social impact or physical impact on a certain community. Maybe we want to engage with a certain group that maybe is inactive in the local community. And then we want to think about how we're going to do that. So are we going to work in partnership with people? Are we going to look at funding and resources to be able to access those people and deliver something that's going to benefit that community, and why we're wanting to do it? And then we look at the what, and that ultimately makes the sport or the activity that you're going to be doing. Okay, so for example, my personal why working for Active Stirling is I want to help improve people in the community's physical and mental well-being. And the reason I want to do that is because I had such a great opportunity to be involved in so many different sports when I was younger that I want to make sure that everyone in the community, no matter their background, has that same opportunity. How I do that is by working in Active Sterling, through working in partnership with schools, local organisations, clubs, individuals, to identify the need in the community, and I do that by delivering sport, by delivering activity in the local community. So each time you're looking at delivering a new session, try and think about the why, then the how, and then the what. We have provided a YouTube link at the bottom of the slide here, which is quite a simple little animation on YouTube about the Golden Circle and trying to think a little bit differently about it. But if you search Simon Sinek, the Golden Circle on YouTube, there's a whole host of YouTube videos that can explain that further.
Thanks, Tom. So that is the why element, and we're actually going to use the why, the how, and the what. If you haven't picked up on that already, so we're starting with our own why there. And what we'd hope to do with this session was, if you're thinking, if you're in attendance at the workshop, then the project that you're looking to deliver, well, we're all going to have our whys, and then build from that point here as a kind of hypothetical project that we were delivering. So we're now going to move on to the how, and we're going to look at some resources first and foremost. So the first one that we're going to consider is just the location. So location, then we're all relatively quite good at this, because in sport we're very good doers. We probably should have said that at the very start. We're not necessarily the best at planning and reviewing, but we're definitely good doers. So we generally know that if you're wanting to deliver an indoor sport, for example, of if it was a five-a-side football, then it might be a larger hall that you're looking for. If you're looking to deliver something that's widely accessible, we're going to look for something that's near bus stops, public transport. If it's something for people living with a disability, you're going to want accessible transport, parking, toilets, etc. So when we're looking at the location, that's the first kind of key thing for delivering a project is, are we getting that right? Are people able to access it? Is it appropriate for the type of activity that we're wanting to deliver? And again, even across one sport, it might be a very broad range of ways to deliver it. Some of it might be able to be deliverable in a small space, or some of it just by necessity needs to be in a large outdoor space, for example. So first things first, think about where you're going to be delivering your sessions, particularly, again, if you're looking at people living in deprived areas, then we're looking at areas via the SIMD map that will be able to highlight where some of those are. A good example actually is the Peak, which is just across from where we're recording this. It's a great facility, loads of space, etc., but actually not all that accessible for a lot of Stirling, and that's just an honest reflection and truth for many people who would require bus routes, or again accessing the building at certain times of the day. The second one is the people that you're going to require to deliver it. Now, majority of sports clubs are still run and delivered by local volunteers, and they have significant time stresses, commitments, etc. So normally when we're looking to deliver new projects, finding the right people to be able to do that is a large challenge. So we're trying to find, is the type of activity that you're looking to deliver, are people qualified to do it? Are they needing to go through PVG training? Are they needing the first aid, etc.? Is there a way in which, and we'll come on to partnerships, you can partner with another organisation who might have some people who have got that experience and that delivery method in it? Is it a way in which, if it's in a school environment, for example, do you have senior pupils within your own club who could maybe deliver that club? Have you got parents who are in your club who might not be able to deliver in the evening time, but might be able to do that, say, 3 to 4 in a school session as well? So take stock of everyone in your club, and again, that will come part of your planning as well as the deliverers in your club and where your capacity is at to deliver certain projects and activities. And the final one for this slide is just time. So again, naturally, you're not going to run certain activities for certain groups at times of the day in which they're not able to access them. And again, some of this could actually come down to indirect discrimination, in which you're putting things on at times in which, if it's people of ethnic backgrounds, etc., you might put things on in which, for religious reasons or other, they're unable to actually make that time for prayer or other reasons, just as an example. So you want to make sure that some of this might be specific to particular venues, bookings, availability, etc. But you do need to try and keep in mind people's routines, etc. And you're wanting to put on your sessions at a time of the day in which you know that that target group or people are going to be able to attend. Once we've kind of considered some of those resources, we then want to consider how we're going to promote and raise the profile and awareness of your project or the existing work that you're doing. I've linked a very good website that Sport Scotland hosts called Help for Clubs, who have got a whole range of different links and resources that you can go in and check on this. So these are just some, as I say, prompts for you to go and consider in your own club. Now, most of us will be very familiar with things like physical flyers and posters. I would say that for most this is on the way out, but certainly in local communities, when we've done the community mapping and we talked about local shops, pharmacies, community halls, doctor surgeries, there's still loads of places that you can get posters and flyers out there, and there's still loads of schools in which that's their preferred method, is getting a flyer in the hand of people, because not everyone has adopted to the digital age. When we then look at the digital side of things, there's a huge range of ways to develop digital material. You don't need a master's in marketing to be able to create really good eye-catching graphics and posters for sessions now. We use a software called Canva, but there's also other ones. There's one called Venngage, which is really good for creating infographics. But even loads of kind of different websites, etc. Even on things like Instagram, etc. You can create pretty good posters for your sessions using templates and do it fairly quickly. And you can create these in JPEG format for pictures, or you can create them for PDF. So if we take schools, for example, some schools have got parent mail on which they use PDFs and not JPEGs, or they've got apps which take pictures but don't use PDFs. So having a software in which you can create both, and that means that you're making sure you're getting it in as many eyeballs as possible, as well. The social media marketing is naturally probably the number one way that people are getting word of mouth out now. Right down from your local community gossip page of what's on in Stirling. Stirling Observer do a lot of their stuff online now and via their social media pages instead of people reading the actual physical newspaper. And then there's also a way to do targeted promotion on social media. So on Facebook, for example, you can pay X amount per day to target a certain age group in a certain area, and then that flyer or that poster will come up on their Facebook newsfeed, and that's the same for Instagram, Twitter /X as well now. So that's actually a really good way to target, and that gives you immediate feedback in regards to how many people are seeing it, how many people are clicking on it, viewing it, taking the next step, whereas you never really know that with posters and flyers, etc. It's certainly worth a consideration. And then the final one is still via the local news. So I say the newspaper in there, obviously the Stirling Observer, we've got a good relationship with them at Club Sport Stirling for club news. I know a lot of clubs will already have that relationship, but even in your local news rounds, so particularly in the rural areas, most villages, for example, will have their own news sheets that maybe come out 4 to 6 times a year, which is kind of gospel in a lot of those areas because they go through the doors. There's also things like Park Life magazine, which covers the kind of Loch Lomond and the Trossachs area. But then also there's some community news sheets that are delivered by Stirling Council, etc., their team over there. So a few options for how you can profile and promote. If you're only using one of them currently, or if you haven't considered, please get in touch and we can show you a wee bit more on how to best adopt those. And I've got a few examples here. So the one on the left is an example of a Facebook campaign. So you'll see that they've, so this one was based on leads, i.e. it's promoted and the link took you to a wee page where you would submit information if you're interested with a membership. So this was £100 that they spent over the course of a week. So £20 a day is what they set it as. It reached nearly 11,000 people. And then it tells you how many people clicked on it and then went on to the link. And it actually says that it was £11.11 was the cost for every person who actually submitted a form. So again, that might represent value for that club. Also on those breakdowns, you get to see the age group of people who have been clicking on it and submitting the leads. as well. In real time, you can change it. You can spend less money, more money. You can expand the reach if it's not working out. The second example was actually from our partners at Stirling Voluntary Enterprise, SVE. So that's an example of a Venngage infographic talking about their community lottery. So a great way to just share stories about the different work that they're doing. In this case, as I say, the community lottery, the amount of players, the amount of tickets sold, the amount that's been distributed, etc. So you can use that for male and female members, amount of qualified coaches at the club. If you've got your club accreditation, you can add in there that you're affiliated to Club Sports Stirling as well. So a different way of promoting. The one at the top is the poster that we created on Canva for this, and again that was just a template. Took all of 5 minutes. Whether it actually worked or not, I suppose there's a great irony that we didn't have a lot of club uptakes, and we were talking about profile and promotion, but we'll take that one on the chin. And then the bottom one is just your classic example of a newspaper spread, which again still looks fantastic in my opinion for the hard sheet newspapers. And over to Tom for partnerships.
Okay, so when we're thinking about partnerships, the first thing we want to do, and we've already talked about it earlier in the presentation, is think about the why. Okay, so before you even think about reaching out to any partners, you want to make sure that you are thinking about why you want to do something so that you can then connect with people on that level that have got similar beliefs or similar aims and objectives. Okay. What we'd then look at doing is expanding from the community mapping exercise that we did in the plan stage. And again, for any of the clubs that weren't able to attend that session, all of the community activation officers have done this exercise before and can go through that with you. But even if you've not done this community mapping exercise, there is still an opportunity to just identify partners within your local community, whether that be through just conversation with them face to face, whether it be identifying them because they're well known in the community for the work that they do. But the key thing here is identifying organisations from that mapping exercise with a similar common goal. Okay, it doesn't have to be the exact same goal, but similar kind of ideas of they want to get more people active at certain age groups, certain genders, and they want to provide social opportunities, which sport is also a great provider of doing. Okay, so try and identify partners within your local community, and that could be very local to where your club is based, or it could be wider to kind of local kind of town and cities, and it can also even be wider in terms of kind of regional or national organizations as well, depending on what your why is and what the project is you're trying to achieve. Okay. You can then look to contact them directly, or you can look to contact them through other partner organizations. Okay, so identifying these partners, going to their websites, doing a bit of research on these partners, to make sure that you've got the same common goals, to see that if they're a right fit for your project, and then just contact them directly via email, through phone call, if you can organise a face-to-face meeting, or if you know that they're already working with partners, so whether that be through Club Sports Stirling, through Active Stirling, whether it be through a Sports Scotland national governing body, you can use your partners that you already work with to link you with their contacts and make sure you set up those meetings to discuss your plans. And when you do meet with them, you then want to think about connecting with them via why, not what. Okay, so it's very common and very easy for us to email or phone someone up and say, look, we're planning on doing this sport on these days, will you help us? And everyone is so busy in their lives these days, both in a professional and in a personal capacity, that it might not resonate with them if you just say, this is what we're doing, will you help? Okay. However, if you try and rephrase the communication to connect with them on that why level, you might have a bit more success. So you could look at it as, I've noticed from your website that you have a particular interest in supporting X, Y, or Z. We're looking to develop a project or an activity that also has the same goals in mind. It would be great if we could work in partnership to explore how we could develop both your aims and our aims to benefit everyone involved. So think about the language you're using when you're talking to these people, either in face-to-face meetings or electronically or over the phone, and make sure you're trying to really resonate with that why, and connect with them on that level.
The final wee bit in the house section we're going to look at is the funding, because building off that partnerships work, what I find really interesting about that is, certainly from experience, a lot of partnerships are based on what can you give us and what can we give you, and actually really it should just start off with that particular element of, well, what have we got in common here? What are we both equally trying to achieve? And then from that point, you can then better understand how can you help each other more operationally to deliver on that. And funding is one of those ones, because again, quite naturally, a lot of partnerships are based out of how can we get some money out of this, and that's a fair way to go about it. So I'm going to go over some options. I've already mentioned this one already about the Stirling Community Lottery, but this isn't specific to that lottery alone. A lot of internal club lotteries do take place, kind of bonus ball type things with the lottery, or a jackpot joker in which each member of the club has a particular card, and if your card gets drawn, then you win the jackpot, and if there's no winner, it rolls over, etc. So internal wee club lottery schemes are a good way of just having that ticking over income, and then you can allocate that income towards a particular project, or if it's towards coach education, etc. That's a good wee nest egg to have that above and beyond your club fees. Second one, again, this isn't saying that you have to hire this band. This is just other tribute acts are available, but social nights. So particularly if your club has got its own facility, clubhouse, etc. But even not, you can hire halls and you can have tribute nights, quiz nights, race nights. Even out with that, I know that a lot of clubs will do things like bag packing or football cards, etc. So these are another means of generating additional revenue into your club to fund particular projects. And you tend to find that people are more open to these projects if you're open about what you're trying to do. If it becomes something in which, oh, we're doing these every year just to try and maintain the status quo, whereas if, oh, we're doing this to reach a certain goal or reach a particular audience that we can't currently do, I think that will resonate with more people. A wee one here is gift aid. So this is open to clubs who are got community amateur sports club status, or if you're an incorporated organisation such as a charity, you can claim gift aid. So this is essentially, you can claim the tax on all donations to your club. So you can go and have a wee Google about gift aid and how you can become applicable to it, but essentially it means that you would have, say, a button on your website or your social media, and whenever a donation is made to your club, you can actually claim, like the example there is claiming an additional 25p on every pound that's donated. So again, just a good way to get money in your club instead of going to the tax man. Crowdfunder is popular specifically for particular goals. So if it's a new facility or a new piece of equipment, crowdfunder is an increasingly common way to go about it. That's essentially, you can give something back to your club. So i.e. if you donate £10, then you might get a club branded pair of socks, or if you donate £100, then you can get free tickets to the games all season, or if you donate £1,000, then that means that you get free pies in Bovril. That's what I would want. Free pies in Bovril. But essentially, your club can design it the way that you want it, or it can just be open for certain donations. But the idea is to incentivize people, and then it tells you what the goal is, and you can amend those as you get closer to your goal, or if you're struggling towards a goal. So it's just a newer and more engaging way to try and raise some funds, and that can be sporting and non-sporting people who can contribute towards those. We've got kind of more sponsorship in regards to sponsored walks or particular challenges that people that might raise internal sponsorship within your club. So this is a fantastic example that's pictured. This is Amanda from Equipower, who walked up to Maya, I believe, 100 times. And Equipower is a riding for the disabled organisation with horses, so you might be able to make out that she carried up that horse all 100 trips, and raised a great amount of money towards a cause for that organisation. Then we've got more kind of commercial sponsorship. So I'm by no means advocating that people get sponsors tattooed on their body. This is just to make a comical example. But again, loads of local businesses out there, you might identify some of these through your community mapping exercise. Sometimes it just pays for strips. But again, some sponsors might say, yeah, we want to be the organisation that's showing that wider kind of social awareness or that corporate social responsibility, and saying that we've been able to support 20 new people get involved in a particular sport through our sponsorship to pay for coaches, facilities, etc. So a good opportunity there if you have awareness or connections. And then the last one is an organisation called Fantastic Fanatics, a bit of a tongue twister. The idea with this is that if you sign up and people within your club shop in particular or organisations that are connected to Fantastic Fanatics, then you get a kickback or a contribution. Now, this is relatively nominal, but if you buy a sandwich out of Morrison's, as an example, I couldn't actually say whether they're actually on the site or not, but again, a nominal percentage of those transactions go back into your club. So a good option there. Of course, haven't addressed grant funding, so I would always suggest that if you want to talk about going for particular grants, and we've got one internally at Club Sports Stirling, so internal or external, please do connect with your activation officer on this. There can be a kind of reactive way of trying to meet deadlines, etc., for funding applications. But if you're doing the plan, do, review approach, you're actually building everything that you need incorporated to put a good funding application for loads of different funds, whereas a lot of funding is, oh, this fund's coming up, the deadline's in a week's time, let's get an application in. So I would recommend taking a wee look at the Funding Stirling website, which is linked at the top when we share these slides, and that gives you a whole host. It's like a search engine for different funds. So just to run through these very quickly, you want to take a look at whether it's a private funder, a charity funder, or a statutory funder, because again, that might indicate the type of outcomes or projects that they're looking to fund. Statutory funds might be restricted to particular projects in particular areas, if it's say connected to Stirling Council, for example, or the government, whereas private or philanthropic based funders might be a lot more open towards their charitable goals. So keep that in mind. Fund eligibility. So some funders will only fund Scotland, some will only fund rural areas, some will only fund particular types of projects for particular types of groups. So do check these out. And then more commonly, some funders will only go for incorporated organisations. They won't fund unincorporated organisations, unfortunately. So be sure to check these out before you start an application. Type of fund, so capital funding is like your buildings, your equipment, your physical assets, and your revenue is cost for people and resources that aren't of the physical nature. So if you're looking for a particular type of project, it's just looking for cost for hall hire or coaches, then it's a revenue fund. If you want to build a new clubhouse, or if you want to build a new sports hall, you're going to want capital funding. So be sure to check that out. Size of grants and then open and close dates as well. Give yourself plenty of time to put applications together, and then also check the size of the grant as well. Again, if the size of the grant is 2 million, for example, and the average output is £50,000 awards, if you're needing a couple of £1,000 for a project, that's probably not the right funder for you, because you end up doing hours and hours for an application for something that you could probably find elsewhere for a lot less. On the flip side, again, you're going to take an awful long time to reach a £100,000 total if you're going 500 or £1,000 grants one at a time. So keep abreast of those things. I know it's simple terms that most of us will understand already. Always read the frequently asked questions and the guidance, just so you're not getting tripped up, because they won't even consider some things if you don't meet the criteria. I would always make sure that if they have websites or contact details, try and get an understanding of what have they funded in the past. Have they funded projects that are very similar to yours? If they haven't funded any sport, for example, then it's probably unlikely that they're going to fund your project, even if it is brilliantly well worded with exceptional outputs. So try and get and give them a wee call and a wee email. It's a lot quicker than spending hours doing an application that's just going to be vetoed at the very first round. And then just a wee few considerations for when you're actually putting the application, and this more steers back to the planning side of things. So things to consider: your partnerships, what Tom was alluding to, who you're working with to deliver certain things, that will always strengthen an application. What anecdotal evidence have you got? So if you know that your sport and your activity has a really strong social connection at the heart of what you do, or if you're really strong on the why already, and that's you've got evidence of that from within your club about skill development, for example, use stories if you don't have the stats. Talk about your why, because that makes it a lot easier to connect to and understand than we do. We do athletics because we like athletics. Tell stories because that's what people really can relate to. If there's any research out there that you know of, either about your sport or about a particular area, this could be strategic documents, it could be research that's been done academically that talk about the impact of your sport or the impact of the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. Put that in there as well. That can be a wee bit harder to come by, but again, ask your activation officer. They might be able to help you identify some of that information, and then use the planning tools that we've been talking about. If you've got a club development plan, if you've got partners identified, if you've gone through the why exercise, etc., you're creating a funding application that's really thorough without even knowing it. So be clear, be ambitious, and try and consider these elements as part of your process. Okay, final element of the do workshop. So we've got 4 questions in here. So when you've made it, you're delivering, you've got your funding, you've got your coaches, you've got your facilities, you're running. So just 4 considerations for you once your session's actually getting going before we get to and that will segue us into the review element for the next workshop. So the first one.
So the first one, how should we deliver sessions? Okay, so the first few things you want to consider are identifying the needs and also why the individuals want to take part in whatever session or delivery you're doing. Okay, so again, it goes right back to the why right at the start of the session today. Make sure you understand the needs and the why of why people are taking part. You want to appreciate the difference their increased activity levels will make for them and try and get that across to them as best you can. Getting a sense of what the next stage might be in order to maintain or increase that person's level of physical activity is also really important. Okay, so make sure that when you have your why, that you try and get across them what the benefits are going to be for taking part in your session. Okay, so whether it be a physical or mental development, whether it be a social opportunity for them as well. There's so many benefits to sport and the activities that you're wanting to run. So make sure you get that across rather than just this is the sport and this is what we're doing. Try and connect with them on that why level. Okay. When you're delivering sessions, obviously work with people at an activity level that suits them individually, responding to what they say about the activities that interest and motivate them. Okay, so again, linking with that interest and motivation and their why to make sure you get the best out of them at every session. Obviously, that can be difficult in things like team sports where you've got so many individuals and trying to get them on different levels, but try and group people of similar abilities together to make sure that they are all developing and growing at similar levels, and so people don't feel either left out or that they're not taking part at a level that's suitable for them. If you're able to, tailor one-to-one sessions to their unique situations and capabilities and be ready to adapt as necessary. Okay, so again, a bit more difficult in team sports and especially with volunteers, the number of coaches that some clubs may have. But where possible, try and give each individual, at least a few minutes each session. Try and give a few points for them to work on. And where possible, if there is individual athletes you can work with, then obviously try and work with them on a one-to-one basis as much as possible. Make sure that not just yourselves, but your coaching staff are good at relating to other people. So if you have head coaches, make sure that they're trying to develop that why mentality within all of their coaches. And so everyone's trying to deliver similar sessions that connect with people on a personal level that then will help increase their progress within your sport. Okay, so make sure that everyone that's delivering sessions is on the same wavelength, is all working towards a common goal. Consider non-traditional approaches to delivery, and if you can, involve the wider community. So as we've said, if you can link with partners, other areas with similar interests, to involve as many people in that delivery as possible, it can only benefit your sessions. And obviously doing non-traditional approaches, if you can make it more interesting or a bit more different than every other session that's available to people across Stirling or across the sport, you're going to make it more interesting and more valuable to the people taking part, and people want to be there. So make sure you are trying to develop yourselves as coaches, as deliverers, and make sure that it's kept as fresh as possible. Obviously, stay as positive at all times. Even if someone's resolve has slipped, or they've missed some sessions, or if they make mistakes, being as positive as possible, trying to be constructive when we're giving feedback is really important. Okay, so I'm sure across all your clubs and organisations, most if not all your coaches will be very good at that, but it's good to just maintain that and make sure that they are as positive as possible at all times. Again, another generic one that most coaches will be quite good at doing is obviously not expecting too much at once, or setting goals that are too ambitious. So again, it relates back to that individual and being aware of what their capabilities are, and set realistic goals that they can actually achieve within a certain time frame. Okay, using small steps approach allows a lot smaller successes, which helps people stay motivated. If you set a goal that's really ambitious and they can't do it within a couple of attempts, of course people are going to get disheartened. So make sure that you try and give clear goals and objectives, and support people through their journey as they become more active step by step. Okay, so try not to do a bit of work with them and then just pass them off to another coach. Try and make sure that coaching across sessions are pretty regular, and it's the same faces that people are seeing each week, so they can build those relationships and it's easy to progress as they go. Okay. And just one last one around what to expect of different groups. So if you are identifying a why for either your club or for the local community, be aware that if you are trying to target areas of inactivity, there may be people that haven't been active for quite a amount of time. And so coming along for those sessions, they might be quite nervous, or they might be coming expecting to fail and not be that confident in sessions. So try and make sure you're encouraging people as best you can to stretch themselves and go just a little bit beyond what they think they can achieve. And when they succeed, you'll see the benefit that it makes to them, and then how happy it'll make them. So make sure you're trying to encourage people, especially those who seem a little bit more cautious or unsure about themselves. The next one is, how should we build positive relationships with participants? So again, being person-centered is key to making your project a success. People's motivation for coming along may be more to do with getting out of the house, feeling welcome, making friends and having fun, than when getting fitter or doing that particular activity. The support offered and relationship created with the person leading the activity or other participants can be of great significance, and the motivation for a person to maintain their participation. Building positive relationships should be considered before, during, and after sessions. You should consider what motivates people to take part when developing relationships. One-to-one instructions can be helpful in building trust and introducing participants to a new environment. A lot of people with challenging life circumstances need friendly reminders to attend sessions and may find it difficult to plan ahead. Participants may find it difficult to find their way around a new environment or need more support during these first few sessions. And again, social get-togethers are also helpful in building relationships between participants, but also deliverers. Okay, so again, building positive relationships with everyone involved within your club, within your sessions, is vital to keep those people engaged with your club. So make sure that you keep working with them on a one-to-one basis, build relationships, ask them how their day is, all those kind of simple things that just come with being a good human being. If you incorporate that into your coaching, you're going to see success. Some of the key points to consider. Keep reminding yourself how vulnerable your participants may be. Okay, so you don't know what people's backgrounds are going to be like. You don't know how their day has been up to that point. So you don't react to potentially then not being up for a session or not being as active as maybe they have been previously. Try and be understanding of their background and be understanding that they're only human and they're there anyway, so try and incorporate them. Think about how you can build a community amongst your participants, and obviously make initial sessions relaxed and non-threatening. Okay, so the more relaxed you can have for sessions, depending on the group that you're working with, the more they'll be willing to come back. If it's their first time trying out your sport and it's intense and it's a lot of exercise they've never done before or whatever, they're going to find it challenging and not want to come back. So make sure that you are trying to make it as non-threatening and as relaxed as possible. And again, just like the last question, focus on what's achievable rather than what is challenging. And remember that everyone's an individual. Any extra support during the first few sessions so they can find their way around an environment can build that trust and help as well. So again, all these kind of simple things that most of your coaches will do anyway, about being just a good person, being supportive, being non-judgmental and encouraging, really builds that relationships and really makes people trust your team, your coaches, your committee, and your club. So make sure that you are making it as inclusive as you can do.
And it's worth noting that not all these sessions are going to go well. I'm sure we've all delivered projects and had sessions in which we've had great expectations only for them to maybe not get great uptake or fall a little short of those expectations. So it's still important to recognise when sessions may or may not be going well. And sometimes you might be getting great numbers, which is the traditional way of assessing whether something is good or not in sport. But if it's not meeting your why and your purpose, then you're going to need to review that a little bit or reconsider maybe what the purpose of that session actually is. Because it's still great getting great numbers, but if we're developing something for a certain purpose and then we're not delivering on that, then we might just need to pivot a little bit. So you're going to want to talk to the people again. If we're taking that person-centered approach and being as welcome as we can, hopefully that provides an avenue for them to give some feedback. But you might want to consider ways in which to do that anonymously, an honesty box, something like that, instead of be it through email or phone call or face to face at one of the sessions. Once you get some of that feedback, whether it be anecdotal or more formal, try and look for some of the trends that you're seeing there. So I'll give you a wee example. We ran a table tennis session in the Hill Park Centre, which started around 18 months ago. Quite a small centre for table tennis. So what we found, it was a session that was targeted for everyone in the local community. What we actually found was very few local people actually were coming to the session, and it was mostly people who were already playing table tennis elsewhere but wanted to go to an additional session were coming, and the more progressed players didn't really enjoy it because there just wasn't enough space for them to play to the level that they're capable of playing. So what the session then became was really focused on junior players and recreational play, which was really quite successful for a period of time, with that being the focus of the session. So there was a trend that was being noticed of people who weren't coming back were those players who had a bit of experience and were relatively good players, and that was the feedback, was it was just too small a venue for them to get out of it what they wanted. So the purpose changed slightly different to a session for all to more a junior and recreational session. Have a wee bit of review time, of review of the time and maybe the day as well. So if you aren't getting great numbers, it might just be as simple as it's too early in the day, it's too late in the day. It's maybe just a pivot on what day it's happening or some of that location. That might actually just be the change that you're needing to see. And then what if it's not working at all? So small changes can make a big difference. Don't feel as if you need to cancel a session or just completely bin something after a couple of weeks. It might just be a small change. Some of those things we talked about, the venue, go back to your partners and saying, have you got any ideas on this? Maybe if you've got 2 or 3 participants, go back to them and saying, why do you think this isn't quite working? Allow them to take a bit of autonomy over what it could be, because that might be, again, understanding your audience a wee bit better who are there could enable you to open up to more people. One thing that's certain is, if it is a problem and you know it's a problem, don't wait, try and address it as soon as possible. Don't let it fester, because that's when it can kill sessions, as if it goes beyond the point of return. Show that you're agile and able to change and are addressing problems, and that keeps it well motivated, well focused, well driven. But then on the flip side, you might be achieving unexpected outcomes. So what I was speaking about, you might be getting good numbers, but actually it's for a different purpose than what you'd initially gone for. So it might be a case of it becomes quite a performance orientated session, even though it was initially designed for more social outcomes or health and well-being. Go with that. Like do change a little bit and focus on that and keep getting that feedback and try again for something else. Again, the plan do review is always cyclable. It's cyclable. I don't know if that's the right word. But that brings us to the end of the do session. Again, a lot of what we're talking about there is what's happening when you're actually delivering. So that's where we'll pick things up with the review and the evaluation session is how do we take that feedback, evaluate it, sustain it beyond those initial sessions, change it, grow it, etc. So look forward to that recording. And again, make sure any questions, please get in touch with Club Sports Stirling directly or your local club activation officer, community activation officer.